We are on the verge of summer, and not much screams summer more than a slice of fresh watermelon, right? I mean, ice cream, yes, apple pie, but when you think summer, you think of watermelon, and I just love the pink. I love pink. I'm a girl. I can't help it. I love pink and watermelon. So today I figured I would show you how to paint a few watermelon slices. So these are the colors that I will be using. I'm using a simple palette. I'm using opera pink, ultramarine blue, Hansa yellow. I will be mixing the two of those to get my nice fresh bright green. I will also probably use some Van Dyke brown, and I might come in with some black gouache, or I could use my um, gel pen or something to come back in with that. But I think I'll be doing it with gouache. For brushes, I'm going to be using my Neptune by Princeton, size 8. And then for the smaller details, I will probably use the Princeton Heritage 2 round, right? So I'm not going to get super hyper realistic here. We're just going for the effect of watermelon. It does not have to be, perfect. But, with watercolor, I love that light delicateness that you get. And opera pink is going to be the perfect pink for this. So when you think about a watermelon slice, you either think of a round slice, a half of a round slice, which would be kind of like um, a half moon shape. Um, and then what I'm going to show you now is the watermelon wedge, right? So we're thinking of a nice triangular shape, right? So if you take your pen or your pencil, you can sketch out a watermelon shape with a triangle. Now, one of those sides, which would be the round side, which is the rind, you're going to want to give a nice soft curve. So a nice little crescent curve to it. I do like to round off all my edges. I don't want any sharp edges. And I'm going to do this a little bit dark so that you can see it in the camera. Okay, so then for the watermelon, we're going to think then this part here is going to be the rind. So it's going to be a darker green. It will fade to like a yellowish white. And then all of this up in here will be the pink of the actual fruit. And then we'll go back in and add some seeds. But remember, with watercolor, we don't go back in unless we're going to go back in with a gel pen or go back in with gouache or acrylic paint. The white that we use, the highlight, is the paper. So when we go to paint, make sure you leave some of that white showing through for your highlights, right? But you don't need to get all stressed about this. This is meant to be fun. So that is simple. That is simply how you would draw out or sketch out your watermelon. So then I'm just going to come in. I'm going to grab my big brush, and I have 2 cups of water here, one dirty, one wet. I have my simple palette. Everything is activated here, but I am going to come here into my triangle, and I'm going to start more at the top. Now this pencil line is much, much darker than I would do typically, just so that you can see it in the camera. I'm going to start at the tip of the watermelon where the pink fruit would be, and I'm going to spread that down, right down to about 3/4 of the way down. And if you go further, it's okay. There's no exact science. I want the paper to be sort of glistening, but not soaking wet. I'm going to come over here and I want a good bit of this pink on my brush. And at the top here, I'm just going to start dropping. Look at that beautiful opera pink color. Love it. I'm just going to start dabbing and dropping that color. I can use the brush to mix it around a bit, but I want to concentrate most of my darker color up here at the tip. And as I come, you can do dabs of that darker opera pink, but as I come down closer here to the bottom of the watermelon, I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to dab it off on my paper towel. Here they are. Okay. So I've wet my brush out of the fresh water, and I'm just going to tap it off. I still have some pink on there. So I'm just going to tap it off on the paper towel. And I'm going to come in here with this damp but not dripping brush. And I want to just start to pull. And if you do need a little bit more water, I pulled off quite a bit. I'll just come in, pick up some more water. I want to pull that pink down. So I'm creating a gradient from dark to light. Doesn't have to be perfectly smooth because, the watermelon has got, if you ever looked closely at a watermelon, it's usually very, very pink towards the center, and then it sort of marbles with the color, the lightness of the pink. And I can just come in and add extra color here and there. But see how it fades out into the white? I did not tape my paper down for this sample, but I would tape my paper down if I were painting a whole page of these. Right, so you'll see how I'm just dropping in some of those darker bits. You can use the tip and just make like little squiggly lines. But you can come back in now. I'm going to clean the brush really good. I want a good bit of water on the brush, but I don't want it sopping wet. So I am just going to tap it again on the paper towel. And then I'm going to come in here now, and I'm going to wet the edge where it's going to have my rind. And I'm going to wet that up. I can come all the way up into the pink, or I can stop right before I get to where the pink fade stops. So it's going to be kind of like a preference. Now for my green here, I took a good bit of Hansa yellow and a little bit of blue. So Hansa yellow, okay, and then just a little bit of blue, and mix that together, and you'll get, the more yellow that you use, you'll get more of a lime green color. The more blue that you use, you'll get more of that bluish green color. Now I'm going to take the tip of my brush, and if you're not comfortable with the big brush, switch to the small brush. But I'm going to paint right along, almost on the line that I drew with my pencil. Almost where my water, where my water ends and the dry paper begins. And I'm going to place a good thick line of that green along that dry line of the paper. And then what I want to do is allow it to come in and touch the wet parts of the paper. And then what will happen is watercolor will do what watercolor does. And where two wet spots converge, it will spread, right? The less water that you use, the slower that it will spread. If I had a lot of water in this area, it would spread very rapidly. And actually, I do want it to spread a little bit more. It happens to be very dry right now, our air here. So this is just slightly wet. I'm going to come in right up against the green with that wet brush, and I'm going to allow it to touch that green line to start pulling the green up into the watermelon. So I'll pull that up, and you can see where it's now starting to travel up into that white space towards the pink. Now, this is a matter of preference. I'm going to take my smaller brush. You can use the bigger brush. I'm going to come in with just a little bit of this pure Hansa yellow, and I'm just going to water it down a good bit. And I'm just going to come in and tap a little bit of that right along the green and white up into the rind, right? So I want some of that yellow to travel up. Now I can look at this now and I know that maybe I want to pull some of my pink further down. So yet again, I'll just come in with some fresh water. I will just come around now and just put a light coat of water here on the pink. And I'll come back now over to my palette, grab a little bit more of that pink mix, and I will just dab some of that there, right? So I can pull, and this is where you get to play. If you want to darken it up in certain spots, this is where you kind of put a glaze on. So I'm glazing another color on top. I'm charging the wet color that's there with more color. So I'm going to not overwork this. That's the thing with watercolor. Try to do what you're doing in as less brush strokes as possible to keep that light, airy, delicate texture. So there's our watermelon. We need to either A, make this dry or let it dry. I don't think we want to sit and watch paint dry. So I'm going to grab the dryer. We're going to dry this real quick. Now I'm going to use this as a learning opportunity. If you look at my watermelon, as I've hit this with the dryer, where I glazed or charged in more color on top, I'm not loving the way that it's drying here with these harsh edges. Now, there are times when I do like that and I leave it be. Right now, it's not the look that I was going for. And if you are getting this look and you're getting those harsh edges, I want to show you just simply how you can fix them, right? So I'm going to take my big Neptune brush. It's wet, fresh water. I'm just going to tap it lightly on the paper towel just to knock some of that excess water off. And then I'm just going to lightly, I don't want to scrub. I don't want to do a lot. I just want to take some of that water on my brush and just softly go on those harsh edges and just tap the brush. We're softening that color and we're going to get rid of that harsh edge. Now that happens a lot of times. I used a lot of water, a little bit too much water, saturated with a lot of pigment. So when I dried it with the dryer, it dried with those sharp, kind of harsh edges that I really did not want. But if you can see here, I'm softening. Those edges are going away, whereas over here, they're still pretty sharp. So I can just come over here with my brush and just softly tap, softly. Just tap enough to soften those edges. And then, as this dries, you can do this a couple more times, depending, on how harsh your edges look. But this is a lot better than it was, and I think I'll be happy with that. So I'll put my brush over there. All right, so it's nice and dry. I have a little bit of Van Dyke Brown on another palette, but I'm not going to be using very much of it. If you don't have Van Dyke Brown, feel free to just use a black. Go in with, um, you can mix up your own browns. So I'm going to wet this palette a little bit and just take a tiny little bit of my Van Dyke Brown here. Okay, and then we are going to just come in and draw little teardrop shapes. That one got a little bit of more pigment than I really wanted, but we can just come in and draw these teardrop shapes. Keep them random. Let some of the white or pink of the paper show through. Where this one had a lot of water, I did not get that highlight, but I'm not going to stress about it. Actually, what I can do is just dry off my brush. So a thirsty brush will soak up that excess water. So I can pull up some of that so that I can create a little bit of a highlight now. When I go back with the Van Dyke Brown, I can just tap that right around the edge. We might not even need the lamp black. Depends on how dark you want the seeds to look. If you have black and not brown, feel free to use that. But just make your seeds random. You don't want them all just going straight up to the point. Um, when you look in a watermelon, the seeds are kind of random. Some pieces are pointing down, some are pointing up, and I'm just going to soften these three here that are just a little bit dark, make them a little bit bigger. Okay, and that's about it. That is how we paint a watermelon slice. If you liked this, please let me know. If you have any questions, as always, please leave them in the comment section. I love to hear your comments. I love to hear your questions. It helps me to know what content I can bring you next. If you have any ideas for paintings that you would like to see, please leave them below as well. Please like and share this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and have a wonderful day.